Hi everyone, and welcome to my kitchen. This is where all the bread magic happens, right here in this oven. And this is my first ever video from home, which of course reflects that we're in unique circumstances right now. Congress is highly focused on pandemic relief and figuring out something so basic as how to govern in these circumstances, to vote remote or not, for example. As citizens who lobby Congress on climate issues, these circumstances present big challenges for our work. The main thing I want you to understand is that we are not going away or giving up on working with Congress. Climate change remains a major threat, and we'll continue to work with Congress to get them to address it. That work will just look a little bit different depending on where we are in the pandemic. First of all, we want to be realistic about the world we find ourselves in, and we want to adapt. Mirroring thinking on the virus, we see our adapted response to Congress unfolding in three phases. In phase one, we view Congress as being focused almost solely on COVID and its economic impact. This is the phase that we're in right now. And in this phase, we want you to focus on the relationship aspect of working with your members of Congress. Be sensitive to what your member of Congress is dealing with in their particular state or district. And don't push too hard on our issue or ideas if it's not a good fit. I must also note that we do not expect to be able to move the Energy Innovation Act as part of COVID relief or stimulus. As Congress wrestles with things so basic as how to debate, leadership of both parties are trying to avoid including things in the stimulus packages, the relief packages, that could lead to opposition. HR 763 is not yet at that point where it doesn't have opposition, so there we go. Of course, we'll be monitoring the dynamics in Congress closely in case there is something climate-related that makes sense to advocate for right now. In the meantime, you can continue to use social media to show that climate is a priority in your district. You can gather stories about local impacts of climate in your district that you can share in future meetings, and you can take other steps to prepare for effective lobbying down the road. At some point, Congress will have more bandwidth to work on other topics again. That will mark phase two. We'll be able to tell we're in this phase when members of Congress are discussing other bills and other topics in public ways. Once we're in this phase, we'll ask for and hold more virtual lobby meetings. We'll resume our monthly calling campaigns as appropriate and begin calling and writing members of Congress with more regularity in order to boost climate change back onto the priority list. Eventually, Congress will signal that it's ready to re-engage on climate change specifically. This will be phase three. We'll see things like the Select Committee on the Climate Crisis putting out the report, or the Climate Solutions Caucus members begin to make statements or hold briefings. Those may be virtual, they may be in person, but they'll be holding briefings. Remember that there was serious momentum for climate action in Congress in the first months of this year. For the first time ever, for example, the highest ranking Republican in the House had a party-wide conference in which he identified climate as a policy priority for the Republican Party. I don't think the pandemic has changed any of the calculus that went behind that decision, and so when we enter this third phase, we'll press full steam ahead with lobbying, writing, calling, and so on, even if we still need some meetings to be virtual, because both parties will be listening in new and important ways. But no matter which phase we're in, there are some things to keep in mind about what we're saying about coronavirus and climate change when you're talking to a member office. First of all, we recommend that your conversation should start by acknowledging the pandemic. Acknowledge the tremendous burden that members of Congress have right now to support the safety, health, and well-being of their constituents. Other messages we want to convey are that climate change is still a critical problem that we need to address. When the immediate crisis is past, we need our government to turn its attention to solving this persistent and ongoing issue, climate change. Some other things you can convey when you're meeting with your member of Congress: this pandemic has shown us the value of acting quickly on scientific information. If we do that, we can limit the damage from problems we face. That's true with the pandemic, that's true with climate change. Another key point is that we can have a healthy economy and solve climate change at the same time. We see something other than this message developing already. And this other message, we have a concern that it's going to be used as a wedge, not as a bridge between the parties. Right now, we are seeing less air pollution, we are seeing less carbon pollution, but we are seeing a struggling economy. A solution like the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act, we can have both a healthy economy and reduce pollution. So in closing, I hope this gives you a better understanding of how we see the path forward on climate advocacy. Just like about everything else these days, we don't have clarity on exactly when we'll enter each of these phases or what the world will look like when we do. But we're not giving up. We're adapting. And we're acknowledging the world we find ourselves in, and we're planning for success. When Congress is ready to think seriously about climate again, we'll be there. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay sane. Take care.